Hi, I'm Ashley Johnston, driver of the #1 Hofbrauer Circuit XL race car. I've always been addicted to watching, being a part of anything to do with race cars. And yeah, I went to my first race, it was actually the Wellington 500 in New Zealand when we lived over there. And yeah, and then from there I was hooked. It was all Peter Brock, and we eventually got out to Mallala. You know, all I wanted to do was get on the other side of the fence, and we knew someone that raced HQs at the time, Mike Irwin, who's still running around. So he got me in the car for a passenger day that the HQ Club did in about '97, and then I started karting not long after that. So yeah, it's sort of been something I've always wanted to do and been passionate about, and you know, I've been lucky to have family support to make that happen in the early years, and then you know, my business now being able to support us, you know, continuing to do that these days. So my business is Check It Out Graphics, and I work with Simon Wills, who also runs Karma Race Coaching, who's a big part of what we do and engineers the car for me. 60 to 70% of our work is motorsport, so the fact that Adelaide 500 is back is massively important for us. Generally, Simon is in charge of design, and he's an incredible designer, one of the best I think I've ever seen for cars. He has an uncanny ability to know what works with shapes and lines, and some of the results that he comes out with always blow me away. So it's always exciting rolling up to work knowing what he's working on. Together we're I think a pretty good team, and yeah, we have a lot of fun along the way too. Trevor Pound, we met at a car show, would have been around year 2000, and he was heavily involved with Formula V at the time. Dad was, having been involved with Volkswagens in his youth, and hot rodding and doing bits and pieces with them, was always keen to do Formula V, or for me to do Formula V. Trev helped facilitate us buy our first car, and then we went from there. So that was probably late 2002 we started with that, and then we raced through 2003 to 2005 locally, and then in 2005 we raced in Victoria as well, and we got hooked up with a Formula Ford team over there, and then progressed to the Formula Ford side of things, and started to think, well, maybe I could make a career out of this, that I was going okay. And then yeah, we just ran out of talent, ran out of money, whichever way you want to look at it. We didn't quite crack it to do it as a full-time thing. So yeah, came back to SA and started Formula V again in about 2009, and ran a couple of years again in that before the XL thing really started to take off. Well, initially it was Trev Pound. He said, you know, this is going to be a good thing, and would you come and help set up some cars? And we went to Winton and did some tyre testing, and we tested some shocks and bits and pieces really early on in about 2010, before we started racing them in you know, I think in 2011. And you know, he just gave me a car to drive really, and that was the start. There was about 6 of us, and we ran off the back of the MG grid at the time, and it was all just, you know, entry level, you know, having some cheap fun. The cars are now progressed so far from what we had at that time, which they needed to, because they weren't really race cars at the time, and for the category to be taken seriously and, you know, be on at Bathurst and supercar rounds and that, they needed to come a little bit further than they were. And it's just been a home for me. You know, after, you know, I stepped away for a little bit. We had a chance to go over to America, and I did some racing over there, and I got you know, Sean Panowich into the car that I was driving, and the connection with Trev there had been already established through his dad Wayne at TAFE, so they all knew each other. That was a good fit, and I could sort of step away, and there was still 6 cars or 7 cars at that time running around, so it didn't hurt the category. And then TAFE built a car at Regency that Wayne Panowich was in charge of, and he said, would you come and drive it? And that was, you know, a couple of years later, and I jumped in it, and we haven't looked back really since then. And initially, you know, I drove the TAFE car, and when that finished up, then we built our own, and yeah, yeah, as I said, we haven't looked back since, and we've just kept improving. And I've got a really great team that help me. I get to do the fun bit and sit in it. I always say I get the easy bit, and all the hard work's done by people that help me, and I'm really lucky to be in that situation. I think a bit of experience these days goes a long way. I always used to think of myself as, I was the young guy, but that's no longer the case. I looked at my sporting car club membership the other week, and I've nearly been a member for 20 years. So I'm not sure where that time's all gone, but the big thing for us is, I think, the strength of our team. As I said, I've got Chris who mechanics the car for me. I've got Simon who engineers it. And I steer it half okay, and that's, you need all of that put together, on any given weekend to really be fast. We've got a great engine as well, which goes a long way. You need all the elements to click together, and having the same car for so long now, it's not a hard task to keep right at the front. If you're starting over and over again, then you sort of lose your way, I think. And our approach has been to keep chipping away and make sure that what we've got is the best that we can scrounge together, and so far that's been enough. But we have to keep pushing, because there's always someone else coming up, and it's been the same for 4 or 5 years now, where there's been lots of really good young kids that are giving us a good run for our money and beating us quite often, and then moved on to different things. So there's always someone new, and we've always got to keep pushing to stay ahead. The category is really good for me from a time investment point of view. I've got a young family now, we're busy at work. The amount of time that we need to spend in between races is not minimal, but it's nowhere near what it was, say, I look at when we were doing the national level Formula Ford, racing. That was very, very time sapping. So this is definitely a lot better for that. Financially too, it's not a massive drain like some of those other national categories are, and it's just a good fit for where I am at the moment. I'm lucky to have a lot of family support as well, but lately, the last few years, we've been lucky to have Hofbrau and the Empire Liquor team come on board with us, and that's been a connection through another sponsor of ours, the Schnitthaus, over at Hilton. So Frank and his team there hooked us up with Brenton and his team. So it's all about who you know and going and contacts and that. And that was the hard thing I never had when I was a teenager and trying to make a career. I never had the contacts that I do now, and just knowing people. And I think that obviously that comes with life and experience and working with people is that's been the last few years has been really great with Brenton on board and having him at the track. He's a motorsport fan, so it's a good fit, and hopefully we can continue the relationship for a few more years, because we like drinking beer, obviously, and it's obviously nice to have a bit of support chipping in for the racing as well. Great meal at the Schnitthaus. You can never go wrong with beer and schnitzels. So highly recommended. The family atmosphere is what keeps me coming back. With experience, these later years as it's meant more to me. Early on I was all about what I could achieve for myself and where I was going, whereas now it's definitely more about the family aspect and the wider team that help us, which I guess you could say is our racing family. When we succeed together, and when we don't, then we all figure out what's going to happen, and we all pull in the same direction. So I'm lucky to have Susan's support. She stands by me right or wrong. When I come home, if we've had a bad day or if we've had a good day, it doesn't matter. I know I've got the support of her and also of I've got little Soph now, so that changes your perspective on actually how important what we do here is. But it doesn't make it any less fun, and I wanted to grow up around the racetrack because there's great people out there, and I think she can learn a lot about life. I certainly did growing up at go-kart tracks, so if she can get that from an early age, then that's going to be really good. I think you just learn, you grow up faster being around motorsport, and because you're dealing on an adult level at a lot of the time. So I felt like I matured. Looking back now, I felt like I matured quicker than some others. I think that you just got to get in at any level and just have a crack, and it's easier to be out there saying this is what I do than this is what I plan to do, and particularly for trying to attract sponsors. If you're actually just there and can scrounge together whatever you can to get there, then that's half the battle, and then you can work from there. And there's a smorgasbord of categories to choose from now. Once if you're starting karting and then look at where to go from there. There's so many different options, and I'm glad that I'm not a young driver now, because it seems confusing. So I think whichever path you choose, you just commit to that wholeheartedly and go, right, this is what we're doing for the next 12 months, 18 months, whatever the plan is. But if you have that strong plan in place, then that at least gives you some direction, and there's lots of avenues for for coaching and that sort of thing. And I think the more experience you can get through asking others and learning from others, that's probably where the real gold lies, and getting that advice as soon as you can. I think in the short term, we're just happy doing our thing with Circuit XL. As I said, this is where I'm comfortable, and this is where our family's comfortable and our team's comfortable. So I don't see that there's no great want for me to move too far. I'm happy. I enjoy racing in a big field, and I've been lucky that all the categories I've raced in have had good numbers, and they've sort of declined and raised at various points. But whenever we've been there, there's been strong fields, and obviously the Circuit XL field around the country is incredibly strong. So I like that we can go anywhere and race against 40 cars on any given weekend. And the door-to-door racing is really important to me, because at the end of the day, that's what I do it for. I've never really been a massive, time attack or hill climb sort of participant, because it doesn't really get me going. It's delivering, on any given day against whoever shows up, and being able to do that over and over and being consistent. That's what I get, that's what I get the enjoyment from. So at the moment, Circuit XL is a really good avenue for me to do that, and hopefully one day Soph will want to be a part of something. If she doesn't, then that's cool too. We'll go do whatever she wants to do. But I'd say with parents like us, then there's a fair chance she'll be driving something at some point. So at that stage, I'll probably step aside and I'll be a go-kart dad or something like that. But up until then, this will be us, and for as long as the guys want to keep helping me do it, we'll do it. Might end up being a ballet dad or a tennis dad, or who knows. I'm happy to do whatever she wants to do, but we'll definitely, I've pre-ordered a go-kart for her already, so we'll see what happens with that. If she doesn't want to do it, then that's fine too. We haven't had the smoothest of years. It feels like it's been a bit like the Swan. We've been okay on top, and then underneath we've been thrashing pretty hard. We had some issues leading into round 3 that we only really sorted out just prior to qualifying. So there's been a lot of work in the background. So hopefully the run-in can be a bit smoother, and we can actually do some proper testing in the lead up, which will be good. And the key is just to finish races. With the way the point score is this year, it really rewards just consistent finishing. So that's our main goal is to be somewhere in the top 5. But realistically, the racer in me wants to win everything. So we'll be pushing hard, and hopefully come the end of the weekend, that'll be enough.